Hey guys, we're going to take a look at the first example game here for the Black-Green Morbid Undying deck. Opening hand is pretty good. We have 3 lands available to us as well as both colors. Only drawback here is the fact that our green mana is from Tranquil Thicket, which you would rather use as a cycled land as opposed to an actual in-play land. What you want to do is start out by playing these swamps and hope that you can draw into a forest so that you can cycle it instead of finding yourself in a situation where you have to put it into play. This can backfire you on a little bit if you do find yourself in a situation where you have not drawn the forest and you need to put that into play. It means that it's going to be tapped and you're not going to have that mana available to you until the following turn. But that's okay because we get here on my first turn. We pass this along. I do draw into a forest, which gives us great opportunity. A bit of a misplay here, but it's really minor. Should have put the forest down first to cycle this thicket. That would have left mana open on turn 2 for any available play that I might have. At this point in time, what it's going to mean is that if I put down the forest and want to cycle the thicket, I'm not going to have any real options. It's not a critical thing. You can argue it either way. I think it would have made the play a little bit tighter. My opponent is playing a Cloud Post deck. It's going to be one of the junk posts. He is playing mono red, and it is going to be a burn focus, so things get great in the fact that I do draw Life Staff. Going to start with the forest and cycle the thicket, and I do have the mana available to play the Life Staff as well. This is great because it gives us an opportunity to tap out all our mana and make the most use of it. So opponent passing along, no real plays here, so I'm going to put down Evolving Wilds in order to help thin out the land from my deck. Searching out a forest as opposed to a swamp because I already have a second in hand. The deck is a little bit heavier on black, but it's not so heavy that you need to completely unbalance. I like to keep things pretty well in between. Opponent gets down a mountain, which is good for him because he can finally play off some of this red mana, some of these red things that he's obviously working with, like the Spell Bomb. Really an interesting deck, I guess, because he is using a lot of these colorless artifacts to draw cards. So he gets down the Sphere, he gets down the Wellspring, the Chromatic Star. Things are pretty good for him right now. Life Staff is going to give us a lot of options against the burn aspect of his deck. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little tricky because you know that he's going to be able to put burn spells down in response to any of your creatures, and most likely in response to you trying to attach the Life Staff. Needless to say, we're going to keep passing here. Really not a good draw that I'm running into here because I am really heavy on these non-creature spells. I have the Boar in hand, and that's my only creature, and really you want to be able to play that mostly with the Morbid ability. If it does come down to it, you can play it, just hardcast it for 3. And you will find yourself in that situation every now and then where you just need a creature in play, and then you can use something like an Altar's Reap to get that Morbid ability going for you. Continue to get a bit of a bad draw here, drawing into Hunger of the Howlpack. Still not another creature. Really needed that at this point in the game. Letting a burn deck build up this kind of mana base, building up this draw, it's really going to give him a kind of an advantage in this game. So he keeps passing, and I do finally draw into something that I can play. I put down a Phyrexian Rager to draw a card, and I'm going to have mana available to attach, at least attempt to attach the Life Staff. I do know that he is probably going to kill it with the Spell Bomb. Draw into a Diabolic Edict, which is great, except for the fact that my opponent doesn't seem to be running creatures. This means if I have an opportunity like I do now, where I'm sitting at 8 cards in hand, some of the better options to discard here are going to be the kill spells. Like I said, he is clearly running a burn aspect. He hits Lightning Bolt after sacrificing through all his artifacts to draw some cards. So he's just gone from 4 cards in hand up to about 7, and that's a pretty great move for him. Not so great for me. So now, like I said, coming to discard, I do get rid of one of the Tragic Slips. He's clearly running very few creatures. That makes Tragic Slip the weaker of your 2 kill spells. Edict is going to be more likely to hit the target that you wanted it to because he has no other creatures. And Tragic Slip probably won't hit anything that it decides to put down as a 1/1. It's really going to need that Morbid ability. So he continues to pass the turn. I am going to use Unearth here to get back the Rager. This gives me a lot of options for Life Staff, and in response to any kind of kill spell, I can use Altar's Reap. So that comes down. I do draw into a second Unearth, which is great because I know he's got a lot of kill ability in these burn spells. I start off by attempting to attach the Life Staff, and as expected, he is going to Lightning Bolt the Rager. So in response to that, I am going to be able to cast Altar's Reap to sacrifice that and draw 2 cards. Gives me some good options here. Hit into a second Boar and another Bear. I'm already feeling that I'm going to have to use one of these creatures as kind of a sacrifice without the Morbid to get that into play. I am, however, going to use the second Unearth and get that Rager right back into my hand and draw into a third boar, which is kind of unfortunate. I am going to decide to get rid of the other Tragic Slip. Maybe a better play here would have been to discard the boar. It's really half a dozen, It's not gonna make a difference either way. I don't know. I started a phrase there, a nice little catchy saying, but it just didn't happen. So discard there, probably the Tragic Slip, maybe the boar. He's really, like I said, not running anything as far as creatures, so I know that these kill spells are really going to be useless to me, and if anything, the Edict is going to be more powerful. So, cast down a Galvanic Blast. It kills off my Rager. Again, finding myself in situations where creatures are dying, but I don't have an opportunity to really capitalize on the Morbid ability. Definitely not good. I still think that you have some potential here, but things are looking a little grim. So, going to tap out here, put down the bear because it is the smaller creature. If I have the opportunity to get a Morbid creature, I want it to be the boar as opposed to the bear. That's because the boar will, of course, be bigger. So again, I find a situation where I have 3 mana available, and I'm going to attach the Life Staff, and if he decides to try and kill the bear, in response I do have Altar's Reap, and I can use it. Luckily for me, the staff does manage to get equipped, and this finds me in a pretty good situation. He uses a great card here, Artillerize, is going to sacrifice off the Wellspring to draw a card, and I am going to have to take substantial damage. Really kind of a cool deck. I will definitely give him props for this. Tapping out now, he is going to use, past that, the Scrapyard Salvo to do more damage to me. At this point in time, it was 5 damage. So now I'm in a situation where if he has some kind of quick burn spell for 4, Brimstone Volley, something like that, I do have an option to use Edict on myself, and that will gain me life off the Life Staff. This also, come my next turn, you'll see here, I decided that the best option for me here was to attack first to get the damage in, but then I'm going to use the Altar's Reap to draw cards. I'm really trying to find some kind of answer to all this this burn that my opponent's got going on. I also know that I'm going to have the mana available now that I can put in the Festerhide Boar, and it's going to be its 5/5 self. So that's going to come down as a 5/5. Rot Farm, I put it in the deck to be able to cycle these Moors, but I'm not going to put the Moor into play, so just might as well get that in. And I'm starting to think that I'm feeling a comeback here. I definitely felt that I was in a good position. Lightning Bolt does come down, and he's still got 3 cards in hand. Passing it on the turn, he goes up to 4. I still felt that I had a pretty good shot at winning this. With the Boar in table, it's going to get some fast damage. I had drawn into a Fume Spitter that will give me the ability to quickly get the Festerhide Boar number 2 into play with the Morbid ability. As I point out in the article, you can use the Fume Spitter to kill itself, and that would have given me the option to get the 5/5 Boar for a cost of 5 total. And I would have, of course, used the Life Staff to gain some quick life off that. So I really felt that I was in a good position here. Unfortunately, I was very, very wrong on my opponent's read, and he did have the X burn spells. Probably something I should have predicted in a deck that is running the Cloud Posts, but I really felt this game shows a lot of potential for this deck, at the very least, even though it is a loss. Shows some of the interactions you can do in response using the instance effectively, and kind of, just a showcase of the potential. I realize potential is great, but if a deck doesn't work, it doesn't work. I still think this is a good game, and definitely check out the others. You can, see some of the interactions further.